Today, we're gonna jump into a book that really shook up the world of personal finance. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now at its heart, it's a really simple story about two dads, and they had completely different ideas about money. One of those paths leads to a life of financial struggle, and the other, well, it leads to freedom. So, what's the big secret? Let's dive in and find out. And this, right here, cuts straight to the core of the whole book. On the one hand, you got the advice most of us grew up with, right? And on the other, you have this total shift in perspective. This is a big conflict between the two dads. One wants you to be a great employee, the other wants you to be the owner. You see, the author, Robert Kiyosaki, he tells his story through the eyes of his two fathers. First, there's his actual dad, who he calls Poor Dad. This was a brilliant, highly educated man, a school teacher. Then there was his best friend's father, his rich dad, who was actually a school dropout but became a self-made millionaire. I mean, two totally different paths leading to totally different results. This one tiny change in wording, it really says everything about their mindsets. When you say I can't afford it, that's it. It's a full stop. Your brain just shuts down. But when you ask, how can I afford it? Well, that changes everything. It turns a roadblock into a puzzle. Basically forces your brain to start looking for a way. And this is huge one. Rich Dad made this really critical distinction. See, being broke is just a situation. You don't have cash right now. It's temporary. But being poor, oh, that's a state of mind. It's this crippling belief that you'll never have money. So one's a circumstance, but the other is a license you give yourself. Okay, so the first major lesson Kiyosaki learned was all about breaking out of a cycle that most people don't even realize they're in. And it all kicked off with a really strange first job that his rich dad set up for him. So get this, when he was just 9 years old, Kiyosaki and his buddy Mike got a job with Rich Dad. Their task, dusting canned goods for a measly 10 cents an hour. Can you imagine? They did this boring, tedious work week after week until they just got so frustrated. They felt totally ripped off and were about to quit. And believe it or not, that was the whole point. So Rich Dad sat them down and explained that the job was never about the 10 cents. It was a taste of real life. He was teaching them that life is always gonna push you around. You can just give up, or you can get mad and push back at your boss, or you can see that push as a lesson. You can find a smarter way forward. And this is the trap he was warning them about, the rat race. It's this endless pattern, right? You get up, you go to work, you pay your bills, and it's all driven by two emotions, fear, the fear of not having enough money, and then greed, or desire for all the cool stuff that money can buy. So you get a paycheck, you want more things, you spend more, and then that fear of being broke comes right back, keeping you stuck on that hamster wheel. So what was Rich Dad's next move? He offered them a totally new deal. He said, keep working, but I'm not gonna pay you anything. Zero. He took the paycheck, that little carrot, completely off the table. And what that did was it forced them to stop thinking like employees who just want a raise, and start thinking like entrepreneurs. This is a question that really unlocked everything. By getting rid of the wage, Rich Dad forced them to open their eyes and actually look for opportunities all around them. The kind of opportunities that most of us miss because we're just so focused on getting that next paycheck. And they came up with something brilliant. They noticed the stores drawn out old comic books, so they collected them, opened up a little library in an empty room, started charging the other kids admission to come in and read. All of a sudden, they had a business, their very first asset. It was making them money even when they weren't there. For the first time, they had money working for them. That incredible feeling of having money work for them, well, it leads us right into the next huge lesson. It's not enough to just break the work for a paycheck mindset. You also have to know what to do with the money you get. And it all boils down to one super simple foundational rule. Forget all the complicated definitions you've ever heard. Rich Dad's definition of an asset is just beautifully simple. Ready? An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. That's it. Simple as that. And you guys said the definition of a liability is just as straightforward. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. The only thing that matters is which way the cash is flowing, and understanding that flow is everything. So let's see how this works in practice. For a poor person, money comes in from a job, and it flows right back out to cover expenses like taxes, food, and rental. There's nothing going into an asset column. It's a simple, and often really tough, hand-to-mouth cycle. Now, here's the middle class. This is where it gets tricky. Income comes in, but it's used to buy liabilities, things like a mortgage, a car loan, credit card debt. And the problem is, those liabilities then create even more expenses, which keeps people trapped in the very red race we just talked about. And finally, we have the cash flow of the rich. This is a totally different picture. They focus on using their income to buy assets. Then that asset count starts generating its own income, which easily covers their expenses. And what do they do with the extra money? You guessed it, they buy more assets. It becomes this amazing, self-fulfilling cycle of wealth. Alright, so using these simple definitions, we have asked a question that really stirs up a lot of debate. It's one of the book's most famous and controversial points. Is the house you live in actually an asset? The book argues pretty strongly that for most people, their main home is a liability. And why? Well, just look at the cash flow. Every single month it takes money out of your pocket for the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, upkeep. It doesn't put money in your pocket. That actually creates the expenses. So all of this brings us to lesson number 3, and this one is all about where you put your focus. It highlights the massive difference between just working at your job and actually building your own wealth. The book makes a really sharp distinction between your profession and your business. Your profession, being a baker, teacher, whatever, that's how you get a paycheck to pay the bills. But your business, that's your asset column. The mistake so many of us make is we spend our entire lives minding someone else's business instead of building our own. So what should be in that asset column? What are these real assets? Well, the whole point is to buy things that make you money without you having to be there all the time. We're talking about businesses you own but don't have to run day to day. Stocks, bonds, real estate depends on rent. Things that literally make money for you while you sleep. And the strategy the book lays out is actually pretty simple. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow. No way. You keep your day job, that pays the bills. But you use every extra dollar and every bit of focus you have to build up your asset column. You'll buy real assets that put money in your pocket, not fancy liabilities that just drain it. And this last quote really ties it all together perfectly. It's not about how big your paycheck is. It's about what you'll do with that paycheck. Are you just buying expenses? Are you buying liabilities that you've been told are assets? Or are you minding your own business and building that asset column that one day will set you free? According to this book, that's the whole game, and the choice is up to you.